Hello, hello. Hear me okay? Okay, you want to test it?
Hello.
Okay. I talk a lot louder than her, so we're excited to present with you guys this morning, and then after that, I'm going to be preaching a full sermon, so sit tight, okay? You're going to be here a while. No, but as most of you know, I know most of you here, even though I've been going here for a while, there's still some of you that I haven't met, so I apologize for that. Just after service, sometimes you get caught up talking with the people you do know, but I'm still looking forward to meeting the rest of you before we end up leaving. But as you know, I'm Anthony.
I'm Pamela.
And we are the Beaulieus. Oh, need this. And so I was born and raised here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I'm from Guanacaste, Costa Rica.
And together we're going to be serving in David, Panama. And so to give you guys a little history about us and everything that happened last year, because you might be looking at us and wondering, how in the world did this happen? And I wonder that every day. So I'm going to give you guys a little story about where I was last year. It might have seemed quiet around here without me. And so just to show you, it's just going to be a slide with some pictures and I'll just kind of share. But I had the opportunity to be able to travel around for 11 months and visit 3 different countries. And that was Bonaire for 3 months, and then Panama for 3 months, Costa Rica for 3 months, and then back to Panama for a couple of months. And so the reason for that was just after taking a lot of years of just growing and maturing spiritually in my life, wanted to pursue full-time ministry again and in missions. And so I had this opportunity to go on this trip to really experience ministry cross-culturally for a long period of time, so that way I could experience different churches at different stages of their life, and also during different times of ministry, because sometimes you go on a trip and ministry is really booming and it seems great and you want to do that, and then you get into ministry and you realize it could be dry for a while. So it was a really good experience to go do a lot of evangelism, discipleship, Bible studies, teaching English, and various different things. And so during the third part of my trip, I went to Costa Rica, and then through one of my English Bible studies there at the church, Pamela was attending, and we ended up talking a little bit, and then I got sick, and she was like, oh, let me take care of you. So any of you that are still single, just go overseas, get sick, and then you'll find a woman like that. And so that is my advice to all the single guys out there. So, so it worked, and then, we actually today are celebrating our 1 month of marriage, and so, but we're excited to celebrate that with you guys, as well as kick off the missions conference with you guys, our church family. And I'll just skip ahead.
Okay. We serve with GMI, Grace Ministries International. And we want to share with you guys the vision of GMI, and is share God's grace with the world, and also empower leaders to evangelize people, to plant healthy churches, to train people for life and ministry, and to spread God's love through acts of mercy.
So where we're going to be serving is in David, Panama, and there's currently a church there. And with 2 families and then a single gal. So Alvaro and Maura and Balantes with their 3 children, and then Ronnie and Jackie Mackison with their child, which some of you may have met while they were here. They just went back the beginning of January, but they were here a little bit. And hopefully Alvaro and Maura will be able to come with their family towards the end of this year, and you guys will be able to meet them. Wonderful people. And then Ceci Torres, she was here just for a short while, and then she got there middle of December, so she's with them. So we're really excited to go and join the team that is there in Panama. And so the next question for us is kind of why missions? Why did we choose missions? For me, I had gotten saved the first time I ever heard the gospel, and that was when I was 15 years old. And right after that moment, because of everything that was going on in my life, I was very depressed and suicidal. So when I had heard that message of hope and I accepted that, and I came into a relationship with God, it really changed my life, and it gave me passion and life. And so I wanted to give that to others. So I started sharing that message of hope with anybody that I could. And during that time, the youth pastor at the church was hearing everything, because I was very sharing about everything God was doing in my life. He had given me opportunities to share up front of the church. And there was a couple missionaries that were missionaries to Ghana, Africa, and they still are to this day after 60-something years. And they invited me out to Ghana, Africa after I'd finished high school. And at that time, I was only 15, 16. I was like, sure, I'll do it. I'm down for whatever. And if you know me, you know I'm always down for whatever. So 4 years later, graduated high school, and the next thing I know, I had 2 tickets in my hand to go to Ghana, Africa. And so I went there for 2 months, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Just experiencing another culture, just really getting away just from everything that I thought I knew and everything that made me comfortable, and going into that opportunity, and just being able to love on other people. And I just fell in love with every part of the ministry, the people, experiencing another culture, traveling. And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so I came back, started my studies at Grace Bible College for their mission degree program. And then after that, just still had some development and things in my life that had to be done, and just a lot of growth. And so through a lot of you here at Frontline, it really helped me with that. And then the last couple of years, God has really just been stirring and really pushing that back on me, that's what he wants me to do, is serve him cross-culturally. And so that's where I'm back into pursuit of that. And then last year, I was accepted by GMI to be a missionary. And so now we're excited to go on our first 4-year term coming up. So.
Okay, for me, I accepted Christ when I was 17. At that time, in 2014, my parents were struggling in their marriage because of my dad's alcohol abuse. So they were struggling a lot. My dad lost his job, and he was about to lose his family too. But one day, he decided to invite to our house Pastor Jose, and he came and he shared the gospel with him and with my mom too, and they accepted. And also 1 month later, my brothers and we started going to church too, and we ended accepting Christ also, and my whole family was saved. And yeah, and since that, I've been learning and serving at church. I was Sunday school teacher, giving Bible studies, working in everything I could, cooking for missionaries, cleaning the church. And other thing that was important for me was studying. I was studying business administration, and after that, I did an MBA in project management. Until 2022, I moved to another part of Costa Rica because of job opportunity. And there I found another church, Comunidad Bíblica de la Gracia. That was the place where I met Anthony. And there I saw something different. I saw different missionaries come and share with the people and show so much passion and love for people, and that inspired me so much. And I stopped trying to find validation through academic degrees or money, and I wanted to pursue missions too.
So the church over there, Comunidad Bíblica de la Gracia, just in December celebrated its 3-year anniversary. So the Bronteses got there about 4 years ago and just kind of started in the community a little bit, and then started a church in their home. And then for the last 3 years, they found a building and have been renting that. And there's about 40 to 50 members now, so it's at max capacity in there, which is a good problem to have, because now we're trying to either buy land or get our own building. And so there's a lot of ministry that they have going on, and they just are really looking to have more hands on deck, so that way we could get leaders in there and then also be able to start planting and thinking about somewhere else. And so some of these ministries that are going on is we have the children's ministry. This is how they started the ministry, just right there in their neighborhood, going door to door, asking if they had any kids that wanted to come out on Saturdays and just kind of play some games. And then through that, they would give them a snack after the games and then do a Bible lesson. And so now these kids are just growing up a lot more, and we're looking to start a youth group with some of them, just because they're getting older. And so we want to start separating some of the older kids from the younger and have 2 different groups going on that day. And so it's been really great to see, even just in the time that I was there, just the growth of some of them, but also hear the stories about how they started in that program and where they're at now in their teen years, and just kind of what God's doing in their life. And there's also the Taekwondo ministry, which Ronnie kind of shared a little bit about, is what he does. It's really a form of discipleship with some of those teens and even some of the younger ones. But part of this, what we want to do, just kind of with our passion for evangelism and outreach, is kind of partner with him and trying to do maybe self-defense seminars and things like that with a gospel presentation, because Ronnie has a lot of experience with that, with a traveling team that he used to do mission trips with. And so we just kind of want to try to partner with him in that and kind of expand that ministry, not just as discipleship for those in the church, but try to bring it to those outside of the church as well. And so we're looking forward to that. Another one of the ministries that they have is the young adult group. And so this group, before I got there, it was just a couple Fridays out of the month, they would get together, watch an episode of The Chosen, just kind of have a discussion about it. And then when I had gotten there, I had brought some board games. So then the other 2 Fridays were opportunities for us to get together and play some board games. And it was just a more chill atmosphere for them to feel more comfortable inviting coworkers or classmates or family or friends. And as they come, we make it a point that one person in the church, so that way, we could have an opportunity to reach them and create it as an outreach thing, is somebody would share their testimony. And so through that, if somebody only comes once, they have an opportunity to still hear that message of hope, hear how somebody's life was changed with the gospel. And another ministry is we have an English club. So there's another ministry there in Panama, and we kind of partner with them where he brings people in from the States for a week to do a mission trip, and throughout that time he kind of partners with different churches so that way he could help us out. And so one of the things is that they do an English club at the church. So we'll go to the community, we'll go to the universities, and we'll pass out flyers letting them know that there's Americans coming and they want to help you learn and practice your English. And so a lot of people are looking for that, so that way they can expand their horizons as far as job opportunities and travel and things like that. So it's a good opportunity to get people into the church outside of the community that are, they might only be looking for trying to better their English, but through that we can build relationships and build connections with them. And we've had quite a bit of people coming to the church through that as well. And another is outreach, evangelism, and discipleship. So a passion of mine is going to the high schools, going to the universities, kind of building connections with them, whether it's just bringing board games there or just the table that is, have a coffee and then 1-minute conversation. And it's just a way to connect with them, build connections, and then through that being able to share the gospel. But not just that, but just have a couple guys that I can disciple and just kind of do life with and show them that, it's, I get that you have friends, but it's different when you're doing life with somebody weekly and just kind of having people in your life and more in that type of relationship. And so that's a great ministry that we have going on.
And God has given us so much passion for the following ministries that you can see, for doing evangelism and discipleship, for doing outreach in high schools and universities, for counseling, and for youth and young adult ministry. Also, there's 2 important goals that we want to accomplish in the church in Panama, and the first one is our own place. Right now the church is growing and we are 40 plus members and we are renting, so we are seeking to get our own land or building. And the second one is national leaders. We want to keep discipling others in order to get the church self-sustaining. Prayer requests. Your prayers are so important to us. You can be praying for the church, Comunidad Bíblica de la Gracia in Panama, for our national leaders, for our team, the Mackensons, the Oranteses, and Ceci Torres, and for us to be able to get there pretty soon and start our ministry.
And so our target is we're looking to get there by May or end of May, early June. And so part of that, our budget, just for both of us, is around a little over $4,000 a month. And so far, we've been able to receive monthly pledges that come in about almost $1,000 a month. And so that just puts us a little bit, over or around 25% of the way. And so we're just looking to raise the rest of this during our time. But it's nice that God has blessed us with people that were supporting me last year that have continued to support, so that way we can already have a good start. But this is just kind of where we're at and where we're looking to be, so we can go by May.
You may be wondering, how can you guys support us. There's two ways that you can support us by prayers. You can take a prayer card and to connect with us and for being praying with us. Also, you can be receiving our prayer letters and email updates, and by donation, you can partner with us financially. You can mail a check to GMI's address, or you can donate online at graceM.org.
So we just want to say thank you, and we're just really happy to be able, as I said, to be able to share here first to start off the missions conferences, with our church family and with our sending church. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and we're looking forward to just being around here. We'll be here next week as well, and then after that we'll be off to other churches. So please feel free to connect with us at the table, as well as connect with us via phone number or email or anything like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and now, I wasn't lying about a sermon, but but no, it's only 10 minutes. So you guys can bear with me. So I want to talk a little bit just about the theme and the verse that we have for the missions conference this year. It is, the verse that we have is Hebrews 13:6, and that says, "So we can confidently say, 'The Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?'" And so what I want to say is, don't let fear stop you from serving the Lord. Okay, don't let fear stop you from serving the Lord. And that's exactly where this verse comes up in Hebrews. But before we get to the verse, before we kind of explain, why he wrote this, I just want to give a little background to it. It's unknown who the author is of the book of Hebrews, and it's not that important. Some speculate it to be Paul, some say Barnabas, some say Apollos, and some even say Luke. And it is believed that the book was written around AD 65. It was written to Jewish Christians believed to be living in Jerusalem at the time. He addresses some of the false teachings and understandings about Jesus, how the new covenant is so much better than the old, and he even talks about temple worship. But also throughout the book of Hebrews, the audience is challenged to remain faithful to Jesus, who is greater than the heroes of the faith that we can read about in the Bible. But he also encourages them to look to those heroes of the faith as examples for how to live despite hardships and persecution. Now, these challenges will make us uncomfortable, but we don't have to fear them. So one thing is clear from the contents of this epistle is that the community of Hebrews was facing intensified persecution. As they confronted this, the Hebrews were tempted to cast aside any identification that they had with Jesus. Many of the early Jewish believers were slipping back into the old rites and rituals of Judaism in order to escape that persecution. Now, this letter then is an encouragement for those persecuted believers to continue in the grace of Jesus Christ. He challenges them to run with endurance the race that is set before them, even as their Jewish ancestors had done. And a verse that kind of talks a little bit even about this persecution in more recent chapters in Hebrews 10, 32 to 35 says, "Remember those earlier days after you had received the light, when you endured in a great conflict full of suffering. Sometimes you were publicly exposed to insult and persecution. At other times you stood side by side with those who were so treated. You suffered along with those in prison and joyfully accepted the confiscation of your property, because you knew that you yourselves had better and lasting possessions. So do not throw away your confidence, it will be richly rewarded." So where we come to our verse in chapter 13, verse 6, is a culmination of his encouragement to those that are being persecuted. This verse that is our verse for the theme of the mission conference is towards those that were in discomfort and fearing man. What they were going through was very uncomfortable, but yet they were encouraged to endure, to continue, and to get involved. So the verse again, "So we say confidently, 'The Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?'" Our theme for the conference, impact your world, get involved. We can impact our world just like the encouragement to the Hebrews. Even though they went through terrible persecution and were in uncomfortable situations, we tend to let all sorts of worry and fear of people stop us today. As I reflect on my life and all these fears that I had, fears of man and what people think of me, and the worry and discomfort that had stopped me from stepping out of my comfort zone and getting involved. I have let worry and discomfort control me so much and stop me for so many years from reaching my full potential and reaching others for Christ. I had people encourage me along the way to not fear man, what they could do to me, or their opinions of me. Here at the church in the last 7-8 years of my life and journey, I started to get involved. I started off handing out bulletins at the doors. As John said before, we used to have paper bulletins that were actually handed out. Now we just have fancy QR codes. But back, I started off getting involved in that because I wanted to do more. I wanted to be part of something more. And I was so nervous of being seen and of having any sort of spotlight that I would just pick the far door over there. There was less traffic, only the sinners stood over there. So, but I would always ask somebody to stand with me. Back when my best friend was still living here and going here, Trey, I would ask him to just stand with me and just talk with me, so that way I didn't have to face that fear, face that discomfort. I would even ask Nate Beecher if he would take the center door when I had to do that one, so that way I could take the door further away from all of the action of everybody coming in and talking and such. I would make excuses as to why I couldn't do it, so that way I could avoid it, because I was afraid and worried and I was uncomfortable. Fast forward a little bit of time, Pastor John is asking me to do announcements once in a while up front, so that way other people could get to know me and I could get involved in the church more. It was my desire to get involved more, but I was terrified, just thinking, what if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing? Will they ever forget the mistakes I make? What if they don't like me? I felt like a fake most of the time. I'm not as good at speaking as others are. These were all the thoughts that were stopping me from getting out of my comfort zone. I had excuses, so I only did announcements probably 2 of the times. But I had committed for at least over a dozen times, and John can attest to this. Because I would fake being sick just to get out of doing announcements. I would say I would do it, and as the week would go by, I would just think like, hey, John, I don't feel good. Someone's got to do announcements. But I knew that he always knew I was lying, but he never threw that at me. He just showed grace to me, didn't accuse me of anything, and that helped encourage me through time. But it just petrified me. I was so uncomfortable and worried about how people saw me and how they would think of me. Fast forward another couple of years, there's an announcement one Sunday morning saying that the leaders that were doing the children's church were kind of getting exhausted and they didn't have enough help, and that they weren't going to have children's church for a little bit unless more people volunteered to help. And so I'm not a kid person at all. Most of you know that. But I wanted to help the leaders. So I signed up to help out, but yet I was terrified. I was terrified to teach little 3 to 5-year-olds. Like, why? I was worried and anxious and tried to get out of that responsibility too. I wanted to be involved, but the worry and fear of failure terrified me, and the fear of others' opinions about me. If I didn't teach the same as somebody else, or I didn't talk the same as somebody else, or I wasn't as fun, those things terrified me. You can fast forward more time, and I started the outreach ministry here with Pastor John. Now, in my heart and soul is the call and passion for evangelism. So I figure, starting the outreach ministry, this is surely where I will thrive. This is surely where those fears and those thoughts and worries will not affect me as much. But I was wrong. We did various activities, but the biggest ones that we've done over the years is the disc golf tournaments. Now, this was my first time really speaking in front of a crowd outside of the church, and I was terrified. I would throw up before the tournament even started and before I would share my story, and that's not a lie. You can ask Vicky. One time she was praying before the tournament started, and I was hacking in the bushes, and they were all laughing. So, but my closest group of guys, John, Caleb, and Nate, they like to place bets on how many nervous bathroom breaks I would need to take, because I knew that I had to give announcements at church or teach or speak at the tournaments. And I would either be in the bathroom or I'd be throwing up, or both. Even after 5, 6, 7 tournaments, I would still be as nervous as the first time. I was so uncomfortable and worried that I would say the wrong thing or that I was being judged. I was afraid of their opinions of me. I was so worried about others, controlled by fear, doubt, fear of failure, the uncomfortable feelings, and various other thoughts and feelings that tried to, and for many years, stopped me from getting involved and impacting my world. By the grace of God, he continued to give me opportunities to get involved and get out of my comfort zone. He also put people in my life to help me grow and encouragement to truly live in the freedom that I have in Christ and not be controlled by worry or fear. Now, I can tell you from starting at something as small as handing out bulletins Sunday morning, it helped me to do ministry out there in the real world. Even this last year, as I was traveling to different countries doing ministry, this last year was a blast. And yes, I had some worries and fears and was uncomfortable at times, a lot of times, when getting involved. But it didn't then, and it still isn't stopping me the way that it did years ago. I didn't let fear stop me from serving the Lord. It's all because I chose to get involved in the truth that the Lord is my helper. I don't need the fear man, what they can do to me, or even their thoughts and opinions of me. There are many ways to get involved. Don't let fear, worry, thinking you're alone, your mistakes, your inabilities, or how uncomfortable the situation might make you feel stop you. I literally talked to John 2-3 days ago telling him I can't prepare this 10-minute message, that it's impossible. I'm not a preacher. I'm not like him and Ben. This is truly so uncomfortable for me, and it was very uncomfortable for me. I'd rather go to the streets and do evangelism than get in front and speak. I still struggle with this, but definitely not as bad as I used to. But truthfully, preparing this message has been a reminder and encouragement for me to not let fear stop me from serving the Lord. It is God who works in me, and it is God who equips me. Joshua 1:9, as a reminder, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And so I say again, do not let fear stop you from serving the Lord. And so, I want to be like my mentor, John. I have a challenge for you. All right. How can you impact your world now? And your world being your home, your work, your family, your school, even the church, your neighborhood, but even more broad, how can you impact your world in the sense of through missionaries? How can you support missionaries not just financially, not just through prayer, but through contact? As Paul shared a couple weeks ago about missionaries really need friends and connection and encouragement. You know, so you could download WhatsApp if you don't have that. It's an easy way, and most missionaries, most people out of the States use that for messaging. And so you could use that and then just get some numbers and just stay in contact with them. And even if you send one message a year, that one message still makes a difference in life, and I promise you that. And I was only gone for 11 months, and I saw that difference in my own life, just those messages, an email, a Facebook message, whatever it is, just a little word of encouragement. But how can you impact your world now, and how can you get involved today? Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this day. I just thank you for this opportunity, just to be able to share what you've done in my life and what you're doing in my life. And I'm obviously not perfect, none of us are, but we are growing and we're not staying still, God. And so I just thank you that you're constantly working in our lives, that you're not done with us and you're not going to be done with us. And that can encourage us that we don't have to let fear or worry or anything stop us from serving you, because you're always working and you're in us. And you give us the ability to do all that you've called us to do, God. So I just thank you for that, and I just pray that it'll be a reminder for us today as we go from here. In Jesus' name, amen.